Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Darsha,
And I'm Dr. Altamash Raja,
and welcome to Medicine Redefined.
a podcast where we will explore the often overlooked but necessary components of health, what we consider to be the fundamentals.
We will investigate topics and practices that can give you and your patients the best chance to optimize a healthy lifestyle. It's time to move the needle forward and put the health back in healthcare. Hello everyone, today our guest is Bishoi Khella. So who is Bishoi? He's not even in the healthcare field. He's not a doctor, he's not a scientist, he has nothing to do with healthcare. So why did we bring him on? Well, if you have heard the name Bishoi over the last 4 or 5 months, it's because you've probably seen him on social media. There's a really famous Instagram account called House of Highlights, which really highlights a lot of athletic themes. And Bishoi had an amazing weight loss journey and actually documents his transformation through a series of pictures. And so what you really see is this guy who is about 355 pounds. And then they show his last picture where he is absolutely ripped and cut. So before you see this episode, I really recommend going to the House of Highlights page or even just Googling Bishoi Khella, and you'll see the before and after pictures of what this guy has gone through. So given that he has gone through this weight loss journey, I thought it was imperative to reach out to him and bring him on to really talk about what were those tips and tricks, what was the discipline he needed to have, what was the mentality he had throughout this pretty long journey. Right now in the US with our healthcare system, everything seems to be revolving around a quick fix. And of course, that's just isn't true for us wanting to have good health. And so I think having Bishoi come on is just a testament to not only what we can achieve, but also the discussions and the realistic discussions that we need to have with people when it comes to weight loss. A lot of times we can always talk about different approaches and different medications, and we can talk about the principles, but it's different to have a guest come on and actually go through the fire and actually talk about that pain and suffering that they had to go through in order to achieve their best health. So this is a really motivating episode. I do just want to put a warning out there. This episode, there is some strong and explicit language that we use. A lot of it is Bishoi's emotions, very similar to David Goggins, if you listen to him, where he will use some swear words. So if you are sensitive to or offended by profanity, or our podcast is something that you listen to in the car and that you have kids around, just letting you all know that there is that warning to this episode. Other than that, let's get to the episode. I think this is something you all will enjoy. All right, Bishoi, what's going on, my man? Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
What's up, bro? Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. When you booked the time to come on to this podcast, I was super pumped, just thinking about this episode. You're obviously a very unique guest for this podcast. Offline, you were like, hey, man, I don't know what your podcast is about, but I'm not a doctor or a scientist. But I said, no worries, because we like to talk about personal development, life coaching, building good habits. And, as a physician, I believe one of our roles is to teach patients how to take ownership of their own ill health, if that's something they're suffering from. And you're somebody who has talked the talk, walked the walk, and had an incredible health transformation. And so I'm super pumped to talk about your journey, and I know the listeners are going to be amazed and take away some key points that they can implement into their own lives.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, definitely happy to be here. And honestly, man, I love what you guys are doing, because it's the part of healthcare is the self-ownership of the stuff that you're doing. It's not just take these meds and hope that everything's just going to fall into place. And then you end up taking 15 different meds, one to counteract the side effects of the other, when most of it could have probably been helped if you just had a good lifestyle. And so nothing against the healthcare industry, nothing against medication, but I think people need to take into account their own responsibility for the things that they're doing, and they're messing up their bodies or doing other things. And that's where I think you should start before you get into the whole medicine side of things.
100%. And I can't wait to delve into that, and especially your mindset about the topics that we're going to dive into. But let's start with your weight loss. How much weight did you lose? Where did you start and where did you end up?
Yeah, so I started 2 years ago at 350 pounds, and the lowest weight I got to was 187 at 10.9% body fat. So I got pretty shredded.
Wow.
But yeah, now I'm back up to 195, just trying to cruise at that weight and build up some muscle and keep going up. Like my end goal is probably to get to 220 pounds of like still shredded weight, but just put on more muscle mass.
Yeah, for sure. And how tall are you?
I'm 5'8".
Okay, so you are 5'8", 300 plus pounds, right? Was that your peak weight?
Yeah, 350. And honestly, I don't even know if that was my peak weight because I avoided the scale all the time. So I have no idea if that was my peak weight. I just remember the heaviest I ever saw on that scale was at the doctor's office. Funny that you should say that. It was 161 kilograms, which I think translates to like 352 or something like that. And I was like, "Wow, bro!" Like I had no, like you avoid the scale. You think I didn't even think I was pushing 300 by that point, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Holy shit, I'm 350." So yeah, it was a little bit of a wake up call.
Wow. Well, let's get into that. You don't get to 350 overnight. So tell me about your childhood and your relationship with fitness as well as eating slash nutrition.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up as the fat kid growing up. Like I was the chubby fat kid up until about 16 years old. And then at grade 10, I was in high school, everyone's like trying to get girlfriends, trying to get girls, pick up chicks, and you're not going to do that. All right, I didn't think you were going to do that if you were if you were overweight. So in high school, grade 10, I was pushing 260, bro, and like as a young kid, that's terrible. Um, and then yeah, so I was like, man, if I was going to get any girls, I got to get my shit together, get in shape. So I started working out. I'd run. I was lucky enough to live across from the school, so our school had a track, and so during lunch I would dip home, quickly change, and run around the track around my school, and then go back to school, finish up class, and then after school I'd hit up the weight room for an hour and do weights. So I was doing two a days back when I was 16. And yeah, bro, I lost 80 pounds in probably 6 or 8 months. Like it was crazy. Got down to 180, felt great, and then it stuck like that all the way up until 22 years old. Like I was living, breathing fitness 24/7. Like I'd go home, watch Kai Green videos, all the bodybuilder videos, work out for hours and hours on end. And like my summer was great because back then you're not really working, you're working like a part time job, and so I had all day just to go to the gym. I spent like 3 4 hours at the gym back then, and that was my life, man, up until about university. End of university, I started a business and shit just went downhill. I screwed up my shoulder. I haven't really said this before, but my shoulder like clicks. It's like it's completely like destroyed, and that happened. So I took a couple of weeks off, and at the same time, my business started to skyrocket. So I was putting more time into that. Then slowly, well, I wouldn't even say slowly, man. I gained 120 pounds in probably like a year and a half. Like it was complete 180 in the opposite direction. So yeah.
So what made you gain that weight? Are you someone who eats when there's stress, or was it more of like a, fuck it, I'm just going to do whatever at this age to survive with my business?
Honestly, the thing is for me is like I'm either 100% or I'm zero. That's the thing. Like I don't know balance. Like, and everyone says everything in moderation. Like, no, I get it. I get that lifestyle is what keeps most people happy and most people like above baseline. But for me, it's like I have to be busting my ass off 24/7 or I'm not feeling fulfilled enough to even do it. Like, and that goes with everything. And so it's just the all or nothing mindset. It can bless you or it can fuck you. It depends what trajectory you're on. Because like honestly, it's a blessing now that I'm on top of this path. Because I promise you, no one will outwork me now. Because I'm literally in the field 24/7, like just working. I don't even have 10 seconds to breathe. Like my whole schedule is blocked off, and I'm business, then filming content, then working out like 2.5 hours a day, reading, meditating, all that shit. And so if I'm on the right trajectory, like I don't think many people are able to do this for this long. And so it's just a matter of keeping on this path, because once you start slipping up and you start getting a little taste of the freedom, quote unquote, eating like shit, missing workouts, that can easily spiral into just throwing your hands up and fucking it off completely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for those listening, if they are familiar with David Goggins, I mean, your story sounds just like his, rebounding the weight. And then even the things that he talks about with having a little bit of freedom. He goes into that in his second book, which is called Never Finished. He talks about how his first book came
Mhm.
out, which is called Can't Hurt Me, and he's doing well, he has the fame, and then boom, all of a sudden, he's not doing what he's known for doing, right? He's not waking up at
Mhm.
5 a.m. and doing his normal routine and runs, and he ends up calling himself a bitch, and it's a wake up call for him. So, you talk about this all or nothing mindset. I mean, is that how you run pretty much all the models in your life? Or is there anything in your life that you will separate, keep as a separate bucket, separate it from stress, nutrition, fitness, maybe? Or are you living in some aspect as an Epicurean where you can quote unquote enjoy?
Yeah, man. I'm trying to apply it to other areas of my life, and I'm trying to look at it at other areas of my life, and it's honestly mostly all or nothing. I can't even think of anything that I do half-assed, and even like in a good way, like where it's just like in moderation or anything like that. Like I can't even with business. Like if I'm working on shit, I will stay until I'm done what I need to work on. It's just it's just how I am, I guess. And maybe that comes from my dad. Like my dad is like the biggest hustler. Like, bro, I remember back in the day growing up, this guy would work 24/7 like as an engineer, and then after work he'd be studying what I was studying in school because I was doing computer science and business, trying to help me in my degree. And like saying this ain't no like grade 3 math at this point. This is like advanced computations, and he's trying to do that all night. Like it's just I don't know, just seeing him growing up, I guess like just that work ethic from him is where kind of left a little mark on me.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely impressive. You're coming into this weight loss journey with an incredible work ethic. What was that initial motivation for you? What was that conversation in your head when you stepped on the scale and said, "Oh shit, I need to get back to that fit Bishoy, back in high school at a way leaner weight."
Yeah, it didn't even happen like that, to be honest, man. Like it was kind of strange. Like I had so many things that should have like snapped me straight, should have got me back on the right path, but it didn't. Like I remember the first time I really noticed like shit was gone a little far was like I was on a we were going on a business trip to Hawaii for a photo shoot for our company, and I get on the plane and I'm sitting in that chair and the seatbelt won't close, and I'm sucking in as hard as I can, and that shit is not closing. And I'm like, bro, what is going on? I asked the flight attendant, I was like, yeah, like I thought they were gonna kick me off the flight. I had no idea seatbelt extenders existed. And she brings me the seatbelt extender. I put it on, and I'm like, bro, like if you're so fat you can't even sit in a seat, like this is just your life is about to be a lot more difficult. And bro, there's so many stories like that. I almost died on a mountain in China because we were all the way up on some cable car. I don't even know if I've told this story. We're all the way up on a cable car, and we're up there and we're like touring the whole mountain all day, and I'm tired as shit. Like I'm like taking breaks, everyone's like going off on their own and I'm just chilling. And then we go up to the workers there and we're like, "Hey, how do we get back down? How I'm seeing the mountains clearing out. Like, well, how long till we have to take the cable car back down?" She goes, "You got 20 minutes to get to the cable car, or else you got to stay on top of the mountain." They had hotels and shit, but it was a long weekend, and so there was no availability in that hotel. And so it's like a 30-minute walk, and we had 20 minutes to get there. And I'm 350 pounds at this point. I can't even move. We've been hiking all day, and we're going up and down hills. And bro, this is the most embarrassing part. There's like these mountain guys who like basically live up on the mountain, and they got this like little throne thing that they carry, like back in the day, a bamboo throne. These guys dead ass offered to carry me to the
Oh my
cable car
gosh.
for $1,000 on
Yeah.
these bamboo sticks. I'm like, nah, bro, fuck that. I'm gonna make it there. And bro, it
Wow.
was
Yeah, it's a
terrible.
lot.
Like otherwise, I would have had to sleep on the side of the mountain and get eaten by coyotes or some shit. So like all these stories, man. Like I couldn't even walk up these steps. Like my back was flaring up. I was drenched. And yeah, man, like there's so many of those stories. But the final straw was a trip we went to in Mexico. We were all just chilling, partying. Usually when we go on these vacations, but it was the height of COVID. The resorts were empty. No one was there. And so the trip just moved to be like an exploration trip, a chill trip where we're hiking, we're doing activities I could not do because of my weight. Like shit, like walking around the city for an hour, bro. I would walk for 5-10 minutes and my back would be on fire. I couldn't even do that. Skidoos, or what do you call it? ATVs, all those things. And then I get back from that vacation. I'm like, bro, this was supposed to be a time for you to relax, a time for you to enjoy your trip and you had a miserable time while all your boys, all your friends are having the time of their life. And I'm like, this cannot be the rest of my life, man. And so I got super lucky that one of my boys did 75 hard. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I learned about it from you, actually, from your videos.
Yeah, okay. So maybe for your listeners, if you guys don't know what 75 hard is, it's a program by Andy Frisella. It involves you doing 5 tasks for 75 straight days. If you miss a day, you have to restart. The tasks are no cheat meals, no alcohol, take a daily progress photo, 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes each. They can't be back to back. Read 10 pages of a self development book and drink a gallon of water. So that's what 75 hard is. You have to do it for 75 straight days. I got lucky enough that one of my boys did it the year before in December. I saw his results. I saw not just his physical change, but his mental change. He started acting differently. He started being a person of word, keeping his word to himself, like not taking shit from people in the sense that like he was not a pushover. He was not gonna just do things because he do things that he shouldn't be doing just because he got convinced to doing it. And so seeing all that, I was like, when he asked me to, we got back from that Mexico trip, he asked me to do another round. He was doing his second round. I was going to start, and I'm like, fuck it, let's do it, man. I could not say no to that. And so, yeah, man, we started 75 hard on March 16th of 2021, and that was it, man.
Did you fail on the first attempt, or did you get through it?
No, I'm so surprised. I get to ask that a lot. I've never failed a single round I've done of any of the live hard phases because there's phases after, and I'm at like 10 times right now. So once that is a testament to the all or nothing. Because bro, once I'm on that path, once I'm doing it, there's no shot I'm gonna stop. Like bro, I remember I had so much momentum on one of the phases. I was like envisioning fucking meteors striking the floor, and I would still figure out how to run through the rubble of the debris and shit. Because that's like how much confidence that program gave me into keeping my word, keeping my momentum going. And yeah, man, that was the start of it. So it was like it's kind of strange because I had all these little like actual wake up calls, and the last one was kind of like a stupid one in the sense that like, man, you didn't enjoy a vacation, grow up. But that was the one that kind of pushed it forward.
No, I feel you. I mean, a lot of these conversations, it's funny, right? I mean, you don't imagine it in a young 20-year-old talking about not having fun on vacation because not being able to walk. I mean, these are conversations I'm having with 60-year-old patients who want to go to Italy, and I'm telling them about how to get in shape so that they can walk the steep steps in Positano or be able to get their luggage overhead on the train. But I mean, for you, this is the real deal. Was there a time where you thought about your future? Like if you kept on the weight at the steady pace, tell me about your mindset at that point.
No, because I think we do this all the time. We tell ourselves like this is just temporary, but then temporary turns into 5 fucking years, 10 years, 15 years. You ask smokers, for example, people who smoke. It's like they think that they were gonna quit a year in, and now they're 40, 50 year lifelong smokers. This is what happens when you're on the wrong trajectory for so long. You're just on autopilot. You're not even consciously assessing the things you're doing anymore. You're just pure unconscious into the wrong direction. And so it's the same thing with me. Like when I gained all that weight in the first year and a half, I never once thought I would be 5 years later still at that weight. I always thought that I would get it back at some point. And here I was 5 years later, the same, if not worse than I was before. And bro, it's funny you say that because the thing that most people don't even have to think about was like an actual concern, an actual struggle for me. Like getting up to get fucking water. I would wait until someone else would get up so I could be like, yo, can you grab me a cup? Because I didn't want to get up. And I was 350 pounds, bro. I wasn't like 800 pounds. Like I could get up. It's just that's the sheer laziness I was in. And so it's like all these little things, like every little thing people wanted to do, like going out to restaurants, like let's go out to a patio was a thing that I had to consciously think about. How are we going to get there? Are we going to have to walk? Do they want to walk? Can I maybe Uber there? Like all these dumb little things that just are so mundane to most people. I had to actually rationally think about. So it just became so hectic to live like that, man.
Yeah. You have some videos on Instagram about the times back then when you're jumping out of a hospital bed and kind of just being a goofball. But if you don't mind, and you don't have to
Yeah.
disclose anything if you don't want to, but what were the symptoms that you were feeling throughout being at that weight?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about anything, man. So the reason a lot of people think like I was in the hospital for something serious, or I got like gastric sleeve or something like that. The reason that that hospital video you got was my first ever panic attack. I've never had a panic attack before in my life, and I thought I was having a heart attack. I thought I was dying. I was like just working on my laptop one day, and all of a sudden I feel this white flashing light in my eye. I just downed like 3 coffees and probably smoked 5 cigarettes at that time. So it probably had something to do with that. But I go to the washroom, check my eye, see if anything was in it. Nothing was in it. Then I feel this huge gush rush down my entire body, and I'm in pure panic mode. I call my boy because I didn't want to pass out and have the paramedics not be able to get into my place. So I call my boy. I'm like, bro, call 911. I'm dying. Like, just I'm like, come help me, come check out on me. I'm gonna. But I was so scared that I would pass out that I busted out of my door, ran downstairs, and met the paramedics at the front of the building. And I'm sitting in the back of that gurney, and I'm strapped up to a shit ton of machines. They're checking my heart rate, they're checking my EKG, all everything, and my heart rate was 180 beats per minute. It just laying down in a gurney, bro. So I'm like calling my brother, telling him like, "Yo, I'm probably gonna die. Like, call mom and dad. Like, tell them I love them." I'm telling the paramedics like, "Yo, please do not let me die, man. I don't want to die." And so that's where that hospital video of me just fucking around pretending I was like waking up. That's where
Yeah.
that video comes from. And honestly, man, like I never really struggled with any like depression or anxiety. Like I was a happy fat kid. I had a good life. I enjoyed my life. It was just these little things started to add up, and I guess years and years of guilt start to weigh it down on you, and I think that's the reason for my panic attack. Because I always say this, like, once you peek behind the curtain of what it's like to have a great life, then you got to go back to being a nobody, got to go back to living just like a pure slob, bro. At that point, you are almost in a worse position than someone who has never experienced the other side, because you have that constant guilt on your head 24/7 of what life could have been, and you chose not to go down that path. And so I think years and years of all that building up in my head of guilt just manifested in that form of a panic attack. And then for a whole year after that, bro, I became hyper fixated on my body. Like I didn't even lose weight after that, by the way. I just that wasn't even the final straw for me. So it was like I don't even understand how now looking back. But for a whole year I had panic attacks almost every single day, because every little twitch in my eye, every like natural body twitches, like you get a little cramp in your arm or a twitch in your eye, that shit would set me off because I would spiral down. I would think that was a stroke or that was a heart attack, because I lost all sense of confidence in my health. I had no confidence in my health. So knew I was unhealthy. And so that the only way I got out of that was to like kind of work out occasionally, one like a few times a week, and that gave me a bit of confidence just to keep me above baseline. But in my head, I did not change my identity at all. I was still the fat kid who occasionally worked out, and that's why it never stuck. That's why that time was not even the time that I lost all the weight. That wasn't the final time I lost weight. And so you got to kind of aim to change your identity, change who you think you are as a person, to be able to sustain any lifelong habits that you want to keep.
It's great that you use that word because I had those exact words, identity shift, written on my notes. And I think it's a key word. I think the human mind is such an enigma. And I believe one of our jobs during our lifetime is to try and understand ourselves, and understand the things that we tell ourselves, the justification, the sabotaging, the self sabotaging that we so often do. I mean, you had this perfect example that you talk about. You pull the curtain and you've done it once before. And I think that's the difference with you. A lot of people who quote unquote just get fat are like that throughout their childhood, but you knew you had this potential in you as a lover of fitness. But as you're going through 75 hard, take me through what it's like when you're dropping that weight and dealing with living through multiple bodies, right? You're having this identity shift from being a chubby fat kid, 350 pounds, to now where people look at your transformation and see a ripped dude with a six pack. And sure, you've got the loose skin, which serves as a reminder, but how did you learn to live in those different bodies, and what did it do for you mentally?
So I think your mentality just naturally shifts as you wake up every single day and keep the promises you made to yourself. Because your initial identity as a 350-pound guy is a bunch of broken promises. Every fucking day you wake up and tell yourself, this Monday is gonna be the Monday I start, bro. And then Monday comes around and you're like, oh shit, I got this to do. You skip it, or you make it through Monday, Tuesday, but Wednesday it falls off. And so, as you continuously break promises to yourself in all aspects of life, you said you're going to go home for dinner, you don't go home for dinner. You said you were going to finish this task before 5 p.m., you haven't even fucking started yet. You procrastinate on studying. You're watching TV instead. All these things that you have committed to and keep lying to yourself and lying to other people about are why you're anchored to this shitty identity that you currently have. And that's what's holding you back. That's what's pulling you back and anchoring you to your past. And so, that's what 75 hard does for people. For me specifically, every day I had to keep the promises of those 5 tasks or I failed. And so every day I woke up and did what I wanted, what I said I was going to do, regardless of how I felt. Like, bro, at 350 pounds, your shit is busted before you can even think about it. Like, my legs were fucked. My back was fucked. I was bleeding from my nipples, from my shirts rubbing up against my chest. My shoes were swollen. My feet were so swollen. My shoes were filled with blood. Like, all those days, and then all those wins you put under your belt, you start feeling proud of that, and you start thinking, who the fuck else can do that? Like, not many people can say they did that, and that's how you start painting a new identity. And obviously, as you continuously do that for 75 days, and for me, I did it for basically 2 years. You just naturally start shifting into a person who keeps promises to themselves, and that's how I feel like you make a new identity.
I love that. I think I've heard you say that 75 hard is a good place for someone to start for a transformation. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent place to start, and I don't even think from a fitness perspective. Like, there are better fitness programs out there, man. Like, you're like killing yourself on this program. You could probably lose the weight doing something a lot easier. You probably have better results even with the rest aspect, because rest is a huge part of building muscle, losing weight. But I don't think there's a single program out there, not one that I've come across, that will shift your mindset the way 75 hard does. And the thing with 75 hard is people look at the program and they're like, holy shit, man, this is so extreme. I took it extreme. I decided to run every single day for 75 days. I decided to lift weights and bike and go to the opposite extreme, because that's what we talked about at the beginning of this chat. But for other people, like, if you're 500 pounds or you're 350 pounds or 600 pounds, a workout for you is literally sitting down on a chair and standing up for 45 minutes. And so it's very scalable. The program doesn't say you have to do this exercise or you have to do this. So whatever is an exercise by your definition, a 45-minute walk, you standing up, you doing yoga for 45 minutes, that's considered an exercise. And so I think it's very scalable. People get scared because they think workout and they think they got to be running or they got to be doing some crazy ass shit for 45 minutes twice a day, 75 days. But that's not the case. And so that's why it's applicable to anyone, I feel.
Gotcha. And the 5 rules of the program, what was the hardest for you?
Yeah, definitely the working out, man. Like, the working out was tough for me because it's not like it took the longest and it took the most mental. It had the most strain on my like mental. I don't even know, not mental health, but more like my psyche, I guess. Cause like, bro, I was going through the trenches every single day. Like, bro, trying to run at 350 pounds, like, it's mentally taxing because you're so heavy, everything hurts. Like, your back is about to blow, your knees are like killing. Like, it's probably not even like the best thing for you to do at that point from a health perspective to run. But honestly, like, I didn't care because I knew as soon as I continued on and kept going, all that shit would eventually go away. And at the end, what would be left is someone who is able to go through hard shit and get to the other side. And that's what I was aiming for the whole time.
Exactly. I think the mindset shift is the most critical piece that people forget about. They just want the results, they want the aesthetics, the good health, but they forget that you need the mindset shift to play it long term. Like you said, because you went through this, you can go through it multiple times and go through the trenches because no one can outwork you. A lot of people in the coaching world would say that we need to meet clients where they are. What do you think about that statement? Do you think that's accurate, or are you more in the mindset that the client needs to meet you because you need to push them to develop that mindset?
No, I would never stoop down to some bro. The reason you're coming to me for help is because I'm supposed to lift you up to where I'm at. And I'm not saying I'm in the highest place possible, but obviously if you're hiring me for help, or if I'm not even this is I don't have a business that's coaching or anything. But if I were a coach, I would never go down and meet the client down there. Yeah, obviously not. Obviously, I'm not going to put you through a 10K run when you're 350 pounds, but I will put you through a 10K run mentally, whatever that might be for you. And so I would never, as a coach, never meet the client where they're at, because the reason they're coming to you is so you could elevate them to a higher level. And so it might not be where you're at in terms of the actual stat, like 10K, you got to do 10K, but your version of 10K is what I expect from you. And that's where that's what I think about that, man.
I agree. And I think a lot of the time, at least in healthcare world, when we have conversations with people, the conversation is about you got to meet where the patient is. But to me, that doesn't make sense because the patients don't know where to meet. They don't know where to go. They're pretty much just going to be in their own comfort zone. And if I'm going there, they're not going to have that trust long term. And I think one of the biggest drivers is quick results. Whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, having that quick inertia can really propel people until they hit a plateau. Which, by the way, did you have a plateau?
No, I just kept because I kept pushing up. Like when if I was running 10K this or not, well, I wasn't running 10 at the beginning, but if I started at 6K, I was running 6.5 in 2 weeks. I was running 7. I was running 8. The 45-minute workout became a suggestion at that point. At one point, I was running 13 kilometers a day for a whole last month. I was running like 50. It was taking me over an hour every single day just to do the run, and then I was lifting for an hour 15. So I just continuously pushed up that I was burning more and more calories. I never actually hit a plateau.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's impressive. But just going back to the point, a lot of people will hit that plateau and then it's like, okay, let's get to that next gear. But you were already doing that. But yeah, I agree with the coaching method. Let's shift a little bit here and talk about your habits and what you do on the day to day. Focusing especially on the discipline and consistency aspects, how you have chosen to form your habits around what you do. I mean, you mentioned how you're working 24/7 and how everything is booked up, but what do you do and how do you go about your day?
Yeah, for sure. Before I get into that, honestly, I think the reason why habits are so important to begin with is because it automates a lot of your life. Because you start looking at people like Elon Musk or like super highly successful people, and these guys are running 5 multi-billion-dollar industries, and you're wondering like, how the fuck do they have time when I don't even have time to like cook dinner? And the reason why I feel, and I've seen it firsthand, is the more and more shit that you can automate and put on autopilot because you doing them so for so long, you have the momentum, the less they take up mental calories. And so they're not in the front of your mind. You're constantly thinking about them every day. Because when I first started 75 hard, that shit took up my entire life. And the reason is because I've never done that. And so everything became like I had to consciously think, I'm going for this run. Where am I going to plan it in my day? How am I going to do this? But now, like the 75 hard part of my life is the easiest part of my life now, because that's just the automated part. It's not something I have to even think about. It's automatic. I wake up, I drink a shit ton of water, like I drink a whole one of these, and then I go out for my run. I come back, take a cold shower, eat breakfast, and then I pop onto my laptop for about 8 hours, 9 hours working, and then I go to the gym for my second workout to exercise. Then I get back home, I read, I journal, I meditate, and then I chill for an hour and go to bed.
Got it. Let's talk about nutrition. How important do you think it is to calorie track, not only just where you are now, but when you first started?
Yeah, so now I think it's important for me because I'm at a point where, I'm trying to chisel away at 1%. And so those 1% are much harder than the initial, 50%. When you're 350 pounds, bro, all you got to do is put down the fucking pizza for a couple of days and you'll lose some
Yeah,
weight.
it's true.
Like that's the end of the day. Like, and I'm gonna be honest, the first year and a half, I didn't track a single calorie, track a single macro. I lost 120 pounds in my first year without doing any of that. All I did was eat generally healthier foods that I believe to be healthy: chicken and rice, ground beef, egg whites, things like that are healthier. I stopped eating pizza. I stopped eating wings. Everyone knows this in North America. Like this, unless you're in a country that doesn't have access to this information, or doesn't have access to internet, bro, we all generally know what is healthy and what is not healthy. And so we just all try to rationalize on why something is healthy. It's not, bro. You generally know. And so that's what I did. I went to the basics. I did that, and that naturally put me in a calorie deficit. So I didn't even really need to track or do anything. But now, like, yeah, for sure, I've seen a lot better results in the last 8 months. I've been calorie tracking, macro tracking now. And yeah, because everything's calculated. I'm eating the exact amount of protein, carbs, and fats that I need to eat to fuel my body for my level of activity. And so, yeah, I'm seeing a lot faster, better results. But had I told that to myself at the beginning, when I was already throwing in 15 other new things that I needed to do, I might have not stuck to it, to be honest. Because it's like now you got to weigh out all your shit. You got to meal prep beforehand. It's just become so many things that you're trying to tack on at once. I don't know if I would have done that, to be honest.
Gotcha. Did you utilize any type of fasting, intermittent fasting?
Yeah, yeah. I was doing intermittent fasting for probably 16 or 18 hours, at least 16 hours. Yeah, so I'd cap my last meal at 8 and then eat anywhere from 12 to 2 the next day.
Okay. Did you find that beneficial from a caloric deficit standpoint?
Yeah, I found it harder for me to squeeze in a shit ton of calories in a shorter time window. I think that was the only real benefit for me. I know there's a shit ton of health benefits from intermittent fasting, but for me personally, like, I think I'm naturally not going to be able to eat as much food in 6 hours than I am going to eat in 16 hours. And so that's why it kind of like helped me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it can be a great tool for someone who's just starting out, and I was doing it 2, 3 years ago, it was like all the rage, science checked out, the hormones, all that stuff. But you get to a point where I was just like, I need to build muscle and I was not building anything. I did feel good and I had the mental discipline, but now I have shifted over to a 24-hour fast once a week. And then the rest of my days, I'm eating the breakfast, lunch, dinner, getting the protein in, the macros, like you said. But now I mainly do it for the mental discipline. I think having those hunger pangs can actually teach you how to be human again in a way. And I think a lot of people who go through these fad diets, just like what you said, it's about keeping it simple. And we know what that means. So why are we trying to justify anything else? If you stay consistent, you should get those results. All right, cool. So what about exercise? What's your current regimen right now? Are you strictly weightlifting, doing cardio? How do you manage the two?
Yeah, no, nothing's changed, bro. I wake up, I run 10 kilometers a day in the morning, and then in the evenings I lift weights. So just whatever my body split is. So Mondays I do chest and triceps, Tuesdays I do back and buys, Wednesdays I do legs and shoulders, and then I repeat for another 3 days. Then on Sundays now I do an hour walk. I don't run on Sundays anymore. I do an hour walk in the morning and then do like some sort of yoga or abs, something low impact for the evening, and then I pick it back up on the Monday.
Amazing. I know a lot of people will ask you about cheat days. You have a video on this, but what is your take on having cheat meals?
When you're starting, I would say no, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for a week is not enough for you to break the mental curse of, or the mental attachment you have to a cheat day. So if you're having a cheat day every week or every 2 weeks, it's not enough for you to change your relationship with food. And I have a video on this. I like bro, if you have a food addiction, like, you're actually addicted to food. You're eating it when you're happy, you're eating it when you're sad, you're eating it to celebrate. You're addicted to food at that point. And we don't tell, drug addicts to eat, to be clean all week, and then Sunday bang up whatever you want and then pick it back up on Monday. We don't say that to those people. And food is almost a little, I don't want to say more difficult, because a drug addiction is very tough to overcome. But you're not seeing commercials of drugs on TV all day. You're not walking by bakeries where the smell smells amazing, or pizza, all day. And so it's like it has its own challenges. And so, like, bro, this is why, until you can rechange relationship with food and start viewing it as a source of fuel, a source of energy for your body rather than like a source of happiness, a source of dopamine, I would say stay away from any cheat meal. And that's why 75 hard worked out perfectly for me, because it was 75 days, which is a very long time. And I think it's the appropriate amount of time for you to change your thinking process of how, or your habits, because bro, everyone says 21 days to build a habit, 21 days. Well, I've done 21 days so many times. It doesn't feel long enough. It's not enough to rewire your brain, I feel.
Right. I mean, Ty Lopez says 67 days, but I wonder if the current, more long term research is heading down that 3 months, closer to the
Yeah.
75 days for what it takes to break those chains of bad habits or to build good habits. Bishoy, so some people listening to this may be in the same position that you were once in before, and they might say, Bishoy, well, like you said, I'm not going to work as hard as you, so how can I expect to do this on my own? What's your advice on how people can avoid loopholes? So that when they smell McDonald's on their drive out of the gym, they aren't compelled to go towards it, or whatever it may be that can drag someone down, breaking a 75 hard program, or just whatever it takes to break that initial inertia.
Yeah, so honestly, I would say just get started and do the hardest thing that you could possibly do at your stage, whatever stage that may be, whatever the hardest thing you could do. There is power to keeping your word, and once you start doing it for long enough, or you keep stacking these little small wins day after day, you'll start building an addiction to the wins, and those will start overweighing any addiction you have to anything else. So once I started doing it for long enough, that I was like trying to see what I could push to next. Okay, I did, you know, 5K in 45 minutes this week. Can I do a little better next week? And you start trying to etch your way up and start doing a little better every week. You will develop a sort of love for that process more so than anything else, that you won't even want that shit anymore, because you want to see what the next step is. Because every time, we tend to go in up and down spirals, right? We work hard and then we fuck it up on a weekend, and then it takes a bunch of momentum to try to rebuild, and so you're not really pushing forward. You're going back and forth, back and forth. And so once you can continuously move up for an extended period of time, your source of addiction, quote unquote, will be what is next. How can I get further? And so, I don't really have any tricks of driving by a McDonald's and not going in and grabbing a McDonald's. I just don't fucking do it, bro. Like, keep your word to yourself. That's what the most important thing is. And as you continuously do that, you will build the discipline, you will build the momentum you need to carry you to the finish line.
Yeah, 100%, man. Actually, today I read a blog post by Mark Manson. He's written a famous blog and just turned into a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. But this blog post was on Threads, the new Instagram app, and it was all about how we all want things, right? Like, quote unquote, want. We think we want these things. And most of the time, the advice that we get when we don't achieve and get the things we want is that we didn't try hard enough or we didn't put enough effort. But very rarely do we ever talk about what you're willing to struggle for. Like, what are you willing to go through with pain and suffering to actually achieve those things that you want? I mean, most of us in today's social media world just see that it's glitzy and glamoury, right? Like, we actually think it's possible to achieve the Elon life, the Mark Zuckerberg life, just by coasting. Just by building a business without thinking, hey, if I want to be that successful, well, no shit, I'm going to have to go through hard times, right? I mean, Mark Manson talks about, if you want the best relationships, you're going to have to go through unpleasant talks. If you want the fitness journey, you're going to have to go through pain in the gym. If you want the body, you're going to have to give up alcohol or, whatever those favorite foods are for some time. I mean, a lot of people just don't think about living life on those terms anymore. I mean, I think we used to, but now with the advent of social media and advertisements everywhere, we're just multitasking, and it's tough to center ourselves and our mindsets to truly understand what are those things that are a priority. Like, what are those things we truly want? What are we willing to sacrifice for? And I mean, I think that's your story too, man. You really talk about how you were just willing to go all out on this.
Yeah, I agree, man. Because at the end of the day, bro, you are gonna have a tough life either way. If you're working out and doing all this shit, is gonna be tough. But the other side of it is, when you're 50 years old, you're going to start having health complications 60 years old. If you're that overweight, not many people live past a certain age if you're that overweight from a weight perspective too. And it's a lot more than that too, bro. Do you want to walk your kid down the aisle, bro? Do you want to be able to do that? Do you want to be able to play baseball with your kid, or do you want to be the fat guy who can't even show up to your kid's baseball practice or coach the baseball team? Like, all these little things that you want to do in life are being limited by your weight. If that is happening, you have to get that in check. And this is why, bro, I fucking hate the body positivity movement. Like, I cannot with that movement because, sure, bro, you should love yourself. And it's not a matter of looks. It's way bigger than looks. Like, looks are the last thing on the fucking list. It's way bigger than what people are thinking about how you look. At the end of the day, it's about, are you able to do shit with your life? Are you living your life to the fullest? Are you able to experience life in the way that it was intended, to enjoy and love it? Or are you having a terrible time? You can't even do a shit. You're watching TV. Like, if you were sitting on a computer, or if you were sitting on your couch 24/7 watching TV, if we were to strip away the TV, you would be 10 times more miserable because you can't do all these other activities that other people are able to do.
Yeah, I'm the same way in my thinking, and if that gets me canceled, whatever. But when we're in the hospital and a lot of obese patients coming in, obviously, I mean, when we write our notes, we'll actually put obesity in the note, and then underneath it, a single line that just says complicates all aspects of care, right? So, I mean, I just tell people, where is the body positivity in that when they come to the hospital? Like, no one is saying, good job, you should feel proud of yourself. And no, obviously, it's complicating your health. And more than anything, like you said, you need your health to live. Otherwise, you die. So, yeah, I think, to me, body positivity, it's interesting. But now there's a movement, HAES, health at every size. And, I'm saying, sure, you can be heavy set and be healthy. That's not what we're talking about, though, right? I mean, they are putting overweight women on magazines, on covers, and telling us to celebrate this. And like you said, I mean, I don't think it's anything about self-esteem. But do you think it's fair to tell people to have self-esteem and confidence? Or, I mean, there's a huge mental health crisis happening right now worldwide. And I'm thinking, if we are telling people it's okay to be where you are, what are we truly doing moving forward? Like, what are we doing to the next generation? How do we actually bring health back? I mean, I don't really think many people thought this through.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And listen, bro, just to clarify, we're not talking about being 5, 10 pounds overweight. We're not even telling you to become a fucking 5% body fat fitness influencer. We're just talking about getting to a healthy weight. And so you shouldn't be shamed for, being a normal weight. But what they're doing is going to the opposite end of the extreme. They're putting 300 pound people on the cover of magazines. Like, bro, I don't give a fuck what you say at that point. It has nothing to do with health at all sizes at that point. There is no healthy 300, 400 pound person on the cover of a magazine. That is not health at all sizes. And so, yeah, bro, I understand, because the end goal here is the mental health crisis. I understand. But for me personally, man, like, how I view it is, if you have these feelings of, guilt, or feelings that make you feel like shit, that is a biological trait for you to be better. It is coded in you to try to become better. That is why you're having these feelings. Let alone, like, let's leave out all the people like making fun of you and shit online. You would probably still feel like shit because you are not living up to your biological potential. And so, that's how I view it, man. It's like, we do need to be we need to relax it too, because also you got models who are like, absolutely also unhealthy in the other way, where they're just at an unhealthy low weight. And so this just pushed it into the opposite end of the extreme. What we need is a middle ground of true health, a true health weight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And again, just to clarify, so no one actually cancels us. We are not fat shaming, just talking about getting to a healthy weight. But totally agree. One of the things because of this movement is body dysmorphia on both sides of the spectrum. Is that something you struggled with?
Yeah, I mean, it's not dysmorphia. Like, I don't view body dysmorphia in the sense that, like, I'm still fat right now. But I view it in the sense that I look at myself and I'm like, yes, we're at a good point, but you're not done. You are never fucking finished. You will continuously push to become better. And every time, bro, this is a common trait because every time I felt like I hit my peak physique, when I continued on for another 4 months and I look back at those photos of what I looked like 4 months ago when I thought I was at my peak physique, I have blown that shit out of the water. And so it's not a matter of dysmorphia as in I'm thinking I'm fat when I'm actually like at a good weight. It's a matter of I could always do better, and you apply that to all walks of life, man. You are never in a place where you could just coast. You need to apply that to your business, to your relationships. Can you be a better father? Can you be a better partner to your wife, a better parent? And that's what you need to apply. You can always do better.
Yeah. So Bishoy, are you a goal setter? Like, are you making sure you're getting through a marathon or hitting a specific weight? Like when it comes to bench press or other lifts, how do you keep track of your goals and progress right now?
Yes. So for like specific weightlifting goals and stuff like that, no, I don't have goals like that where I'm like, I want to hit 225 bench or for this amount of reps or anything like that. I just go in and give it my all every time I get in the gym, and my all is not always the best, like one day it'll be a little lower than the day before. And so it's just my only standard, my only metric of success is in that moment, was that the hardest thing for me to do? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, regardless if it was worse than yesterday, I'm happy with the result because things change. You slept a little less, you didn't eat that, you didn't get the right nutrition the day before, you didn't drink enough water. All these little things play a role, but in that exact moment, did I give it my all? And if I did, that is enough for me. And so yeah, I've set out goals for marathons and things that I do, but it's never pace related. It's mainly like how far can I push myself mentally? And so I did a marathon actually last year, and I was trying to crack 4 hours. Just like it wasn't something that I was like, yes, we're going for the 4 hours, but it was just something that would have been nice to hit. I hit 406 or 409, and so I have unfinished business. I got to get back there in this October to do it again.
I like it. I like it. The Goggins mentality. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, The Biggest Loser, a popular TV show where these people are going through some crazy, crazy training, nutrition, and they lose a lot of weight. You have found a way to keep it off, right? We've been talking about it for the last 50 minutes as to how you do that. What do you think it is with others who regain that weight or at least are not able to keep it off? I mean, this is a pretty common occurrence we see of rebound in weight. Is it getting too complacent or just having too much freedom?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people get to a certain place and think they're done, and that's why I'm able to continue on, and continue push better and become a better person in the physical aspect of things. Because in my head, I am never done. But people think that once you get to a certain weight, you could coast. The reason why you got to that weight is because of all the effort you put. So if you start going back and doing the shit that got you to your overweight self before, you will eventually end up there. The actions you take will drive you down the path that you will end up. You know what I mean? And so you were 350 pounds from those actions. So now that you get to 200, do you think you could start eating like shit all day again? You will naturally just end up back there. And so that's the thing, is that finished mentality is the problem. You think you are done. You are never done. And the other thing is too, is I think with this, my 600-pound life, specifically that show, I think the reason why a lot of those people relapse is because you're taking them out of the environment of regular life. You see that with like reality TV shows too, where people go on like, an island, a remote island, and they think they've fallen in love in 13 hours. And then all of a sudden you get back to real life. They get sent back to real life with real life problems. And then, they're like, man, I fucking hate this person. And it's just you're in some utopian world where you're being where it's like you're being monitored 24/7. You're under strict conditions, and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but there has to be some sort of reintegration process into your regular life because I think I forget who said this. I think it was Hermosi. He said the easiest way to break a shitty habit is to move because a lot of our habits are anchored to our location. But then, where are you going to move at my 600-pound life? Where are you going to move forever? You can't be in that, boot camp environment 24/7. So you have to figure out a way to reintegrate back into regular life.
Right, right. Makes sense, man. What books do you recommend that have helped you, and maybe any other resources that you've used throughout your journey?
Yeah, so when I first started, man, a lot of the books that I read were strategic in the sense that I wanted to brainwash myself into believing that what I had to do was nothing compared to what others have done. And so I read Goggins books, for example. I read Can't Hurt Me and Never Finished recently. I wasn't out back then when I first started, but now that it's out, highly recommend both of those. And then Tim Grover's books too about being relentless. It's called Relentless. That one was a fucking incredible book to just gear your mind in the right direction. I read a book that if you're trying to get into running, a great book is called Born to Run, and it's about tribe. Yeah, it's about a tribe who runs basically 50 kilometers every day, just in bare feet in the wilderness with nothing. And everyone's asking like, "Yo, what are the best shoes? What are the best this gear?" These guys are running barefoot in the wilderness, and so it kind of reduces your attachment to needing specific things for optimal performance. These guys run in shitty sandals that are tied up with nothing. And so that's what I did. And the more you can brainwash yourself into thinking what you have to do, the mountain that you have to climb isn't so bad compared to what others have had to do, and they have still figured out a way, the easier your journey becomes. Because the same thing goes with that 4 minute mile thing, right? That's a famous story. Is like everyone could never, no one could hit it. No one could hit it for years and years until one person did. And then fucking high school kids are doing this shit now. And so it's just a matter of belief. And I surrounded myself with people that made me believe that I could push to where I needed to go.
For sure. Bishoy, I would be remiss to ask you. I mean, obviously, I found you and contacted you after seeing your transformation on the House of Highlights
Yeah.
Instagram page. I mean, you blew up on social media. So, how's life been since then? How are you handling the fame? I'm sure you're getting a lot of requests, but what's been new with you?
Honestly, man, no, bro, I'm still the same old dude, same guy. No fame, nothing. I'm just, I'm getting a shit ton of DMs. I'm trying to help as many people as possible. That's why I set up a site with everything I did in crazy detail. Because I literally have probably over 10,000 DMs right now of just people needing help, and I didn't want to leave all these people in the dust. So I set up a site with everything that I did in crazy detail. Like I'm talking, microscopic detail, and it's all for free on my site. So if anyone needs it, they could just hit up there. It's just my name, bishoikhella.com. It's all free, not a dime. And just, help as many people as possible. That was one of my goals in 2020 when I was setting out my goals in 2020 for 2023. It was to help inspire as many people and provide the help that they need. Because now, bro, with this thing that I put up, you have no fucking excuse in terms of knowledge. The only excuse you have is literally action. There's no excuse now. It's not a knowledge gap anymore. Everything is available in one space by someone who has done it. So it's not like I got to research 15 different articles, 15 different diets, 15 different things. It's all there. It worked for me. It'll work for you too if you just do the work.
Awesome. Yeah, we will definitely link that into our show notes. What I love about you, dude, is that you don't just cater to one audience, right? I mean, you're not just catering to someone who's over 300 pounds. I mean, I'm over here learning from you. I commented on one of your posts saying like, damn, I'm motivated. I'm about to drop 40 right now just watching your videos, right? It's just like
That's
this
right.
very Goggins-esque mindset. I mean, even for people like me who understand fitness, who are fit, still like, man, you're right. My goal is to cut right now, right? Get down to 160, but then it's like, what after that? Sure, take it step by step, but I also don't want to get complacent, right? And I think you're in this like leadership role almost through social media that's just helping everyone, honestly. And I know I appreciate that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you're a first form athlete now. I saw you take a tour over there.
I was there for the Real AF podcast. So it was Andy Furcella's podcast. I was filming there. But yeah, they took me on a tour. Bro, that facility is incredible, man. Those guys, you guys are doing good shit, man, because you don't really see that nowadays. Like everyone's trying to push product, push like just, business, sales. These guys genuinely want to help as many people as possible, and I fucking love that company, man. Like, yeah, they're killing it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it looked impressive. I mean, massive basketball court, huge gym, just very
Yeah,
impressive
man.
stuff there.
And Yeah, and all the people there too, bro, is just like they're all like basically on the same path, man. Like they're just hustlers that work all day. Like you see their stories. I follow like 50 of them now, and these guys literally wake up 5, 6 a.m., do their workout, and then hit the office. Like, man, imagine being in that environment for so long and trying to surround yourself with people like that. There's no option but to win at that point.
Yeah, that's the key, right? Surround yourself with people better than you, and you start to emulate whatever they're doing. Amazing, man. Well, hey, why don't you tell the listeners your social media, and that way they can follow you and get the motivation that they need.
Yeah, man. My socials on all platforms is just my name. So it's Bishoi Khella, Bishoikhella on everything.
Perfect. And once again, we'll put those in the show notes. Last but not least, Bishoy, I totally understand you're not a physician or a scientist, but still going to ask you because I think your perspective matters as you've gone through it. How do we add the health back to healthcare?
I think the best way to put health back in healthcare is put the onus of who is responsible for their health back on the patient, and not some quick fix drug or quick fix pharmaceutical that'll patch up the job at this moment. And so we need to have an underlying change in someone's beliefs or change in someone's actions that will result in a better health for them, And so, like I said at the beginning of the call, man, it's not a matter of let me patch up and give these pills to someone that'll patch up the job temporarily, when you could it just becomes harder to be able to be a lifelong thing. And so if you can change that person and spend that time to help that person, make a mental shift that will have a longer benefit, that is how they will stay healthy and not need you for the long run.
I love it. Those are true words. Well, Bishoy, dude, really appreciate you coming on here. Really appreciate your perspective and everything. So thank you.
Yeah, anytime, bro. Love being on here and love shooting the shit with a physician, bro. This was a little intimidating because I don't know what the fuck I'm
No,
talking
man,
about.
no. Your perspective is very much appreciated. And I think the listeners will get a lot of value from this. So thank you, man.
Awesome, man.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Medicine Redefined. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to check out some of the additional resources in the show notes. Please also check out our social media platforms where you can find more content like this. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at MedRedefined. We want to take a moment to thank our team for the production of this podcast, specifically Ethan Ju and Haritha Yepuri. Lastly, please remember the important disclaimer that everything in this podcast is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute the practice of medicine, nor should it be construed as medical advice. No physician-patient relationship is formed, and anything discussed in this podcast does not represent the views of our employers. We recommend that you seek the guidance of your personal physician regarding any specific health-related issues. However, if you enjoy the show, please be sure to subscribe, review, and share with anyone who you would think will gain value from this as well. Until next time, thank you for listening.